The only time you'll lose in this business is if you quit. If you can be tough enough to go from right now till the first deal, then sky's the limit.
What's up, guys? Today we have a special guest for you, Mr. Eric Chadderon himself. He's only been investing for 3.5 years, but he has over 2,000 units and over 260 assets under management. Started out as a student 3 years ago. Now he's a coach and serious investor. Welcome to the show, bro.
Excited to be here, man. Excited to be here.
Dude, I mean, it's so crazy. So in only 3.5 years, you've come in so far in such a short period of time. Like real quickly, like how did that happen? It's so crazy.
You know, I would tell you that it's just because of people. I believe that this is such a relationship business, real estate. Like you can have all the real estate skills in the world, but if you aren't good at building relationships and connections with people that can open doors for you, it's not going to get you very far, unless you're just a one-man show. But I'm such a believer of people. Like I am where I am today because the people aspect of this business, because of partnerships I've made that have catapulted me in the right direction.
When I coming up, I was like super anti-partnerships. I was like, I'm just gonna figure out everything myself. And I think like you can have some success like that. But once I opened my mind to like, let's do some partnerships, let's get some coaching, let's learn from other people. That's what I feel like really supercharged my growth to like what we were able to do today. Yeah,
big time. Like I've done this with other businesses, and that's where I learned it, right? Okay. I learned it from other businesses, and where I tried to wear all the hats myself. And you always get to a certain point, right? Like you do really well because like everything's on your plate, and you're willing to bet on you. But then you also have a ceiling. And I kept hitting this ceiling with two of my businesses back to back, and I was like, what?
So were you like a what were you doing before real estate, and like what were these businesses?
Yes. So I've never had a job in my life. Always been an entrepreneur since before I was 18. But I used to run a satellite dealer. So I was, running satellite divisions for Dish Network, and then I branched off and ran my own DirecTV and AT&T dealer.
What does that mean? Are you you're a sales rep, or what are you doing, like sales team?
So I would run sales organizations across the country, and I'd have sales teams. And what we'd do is we'd be the middleman essentially. So we'd be the ones selling and creating the accounts, and then DirecTV would supply the equipment to
fulfillment of
it.
So you guys are kind of brokering the deals where like you're getting commission to like sign up guys for either satellite dishes or whatever it is. And then in that process, you need to build up a team to kind of be able to so you're making money off like signing up people, and then like you on the back end, you have like the satellite companies fulfill the operation.
Correct. Yeah. And there's other layers to it. Like, I could pre-buy all the satellite dishes myself and then get reimbursements from DirecTV. Like there's a lot of factors that go into it, but it was a fun business, did really well. But again, I was doing the payroll, I was doing the marketing, I was doing the sales, I was doing the training, I was doing everything. And so because of that, when you're spread that thin, you just continue to hit a ceiling, and it happened to me back to back. And then I ran a solar business too. Same thing happened.
So you did like these solar. I hear like solar is really, there's a lot of money in solar. Like what's been your experience in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a phenomenal industry. I was just in that space for so long. The reality is I lost steam. I lost my motivation for it. And I can tell you this, and this is just like a good note for anybody that's listening, that's doing anything in their life. But if you wake up every single day and you're not excited about what you're doing, that's a clear sign that you should pivot, that you should make a change and like pursue something that like fires you, that ignites you, That's so true. I think just anything in life, whenever you wake up and you're excited to do it, it's almost like your life is way better. It's like, I mean, it could be so if you wake up every day and you're excited to be a teacher or work at a W-2 and like that fires you up, I think you should not be an entrepreneur. It's like whatever it is that like lights you up and brings you like joy and passion. Like if you can find something like that, it's like your life is like you're set already, like, Yeah, because it makes it so like you enjoy what you're doing. Right. And I'm a big believer in like personal peace. Right. And so if I'm waking up excited about what I'm doing, then I'm going to be more effective. And when I'm more effective, I can impact more people. And that's really what I'm after. Is the impact.
So I mean, you're towards the end of your solar career, you're like, I wasn't feeling this anymore. And then how did you get introduced to real estate investing?
Yeah. So it was, I was doing the satellite thing and it was going good, but things were shifting in that world because Netflix, YouTube TV, like Hulu, all those things.
That's a big interesting point or important point, I think, is a lot of times in business, like no business lasts forever. Every business has a shelf life where it's like if there's a boom and things are very popular or very easy, and then either the economy changes, the culture changes, something changes, and then now you have to always pivot to find the next opportunity.
You have to. Yeah. So I pivoted because people were just not as much were they like buying TV, right? They were streaming it.
Yeah.
And so I saw this shift and I was like, I have to get ahead of this. So I transitioned over to solar. And solar was great. And I have some buddies making 7 figures a year in solar. So it's a great business for sure. But I just lost the passion for it. And so I was like, I need to find something that will like re-spark me so I can go be more effective and have the impact that I'm really looking for.
But I mean, that's what I was saying. Like I have some buddies who are making some pretty good money. Like in our supercar club, there's a bunch of guys who are in the solar business. And just, I see like, it seems like such a big opportunity over there. And so it seems like you're trading one great opportunity for like another when you started going into real estate investing. But how did you get introduced and what made you decide to actually choose real estate investing over anything else?
Yeah. So I kind of grew up around the business, I grew up around it. My parents owned single family homes, like 10 or 12 single family homes, but also 2 small multi-family buildings.
Okay.
And so I always knew that apartment investing and like buying and owning apartments was a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also knew that there was a better way to do it. And the reason why is because my parents, like I grew up watching them, their work, like they also had 9 to 5. So they'd wake up every morning, 6 a.m., go to the apartments from 6 to 9 a.m. Then they'd go to their 9 to 5s and back to the apartments every day till like 8 or 9 p.m.
So they're like basically working like 2 or 3 jobs at this point, because I think a lot of times when you first start investing, like you just think you have to do it yourself and you're not even aware that you can delegate or you can like do like have other people help you along on with the journey, right?
Yeah. And so like my parents are in their 60s and they were killing themselves, like working 15, 16, sometimes longer days.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's got to be a better way. And then that's when Tyler Devereaux, his face popped up on my social media and I was like, what the heck is this? Like, this sounds pretty intriguing. So I went to the class. I was hooked immediately.
Okay. Multifamily mindset, right?
Multifamily mindset. Yep. Shout out to them. Right. But I was hooked immediately because I thought like maybe this was a way that I could show my parents, hey, because they self-managed everything. All the single family and the apartments.
Yeah.
And so like,
no property managers, like nothing at all.
They were the property managers.
Maintenance guys.
They were the maintenance.
The toilet, in the middle of the night, the plumbing calls, whatever, they're handling everything.
The epitome of exactly what you said. So, it's countless times they did this, countless times. And so I was like, there's got to be a better way. So like Tyler comes along, multifamily mindset, and starts showing us to buy these bigger assets, like these bigger properties that have enough cash flow to justify paying somebody else to manage it.
Yeah.
And I was like here's a way that could be like the out for my parents, right? And that's what happened. And so I jumped in, went full force, and I just didn't look back. And so that was kind of like what ignited it.
Yeah.
But also like you tie that in with my solar business, we were kind of trending down the last few years.
Yeah.
And it was because of me. Like I believe that a business starts like from the top down. And so because I was losing passion, our production was going down.
It's crazy how much the head like really like dictates like the energy of the company, because like if you're passionate, like your people can feel it and like they feed off of that, right? But if you're losing like your passion or you're losing your faith in your things, like they also can feel that same thing too. And it's all these subtle things, like they work an hour less or like an hour less productive, and then all those little small things add up until like the big result is like just way less profit or way less success overall.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you big time. And that was the turning point. And so I was thinking where I could maybe help my parents go from active investors to passive investors.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
I love it.
And it was so wild because we do a cost segregation study with bonus depreciation, all these tax benefits with real estate. So I finally, after being in the business for 7 months or so, I got them to sell all their assets and like offload their earnings and redeploy their earnings into multifamily as passive investors.
It's such a big difference, I think, when people like hear real estate investing, there's so many different ways to do it. One way is like super active, you flip houses, you manage everything yourself, and you probably like take the most chunk or money because you're keeping the whole pie yourself, right? But whenever you can leverage partnerships or other people, the pie gets bigger. So even if you have a smaller portion, you can still have like a very good return on your time.
Yeah. And I don't think there's like a right or wrong way. Like, what they say in real estate, it's like, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. Right. So it's like flipping, short-term rental, multi-family, whatever it might be. Like, I don't care what it is, but no matter who you are, like you should be in real estate.
Yeah. I feel the same way. And one of the challenges I think for myself and so many people is everything works.
Yeah.
So it's hard to choose which one to go to because like it's like you said, flipping, wholesaling, multifamily, Airbnb, everything works. But like, which one do I choose? Just because like there are so many options, like
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways to make money, and a lot of people teaching it.
Yeah.
But like you asked me earlier, like, how did you go from there in 3.5 years to where you are?
Yeah.
It is because I surrounded myself with people that were way smarter than me, way better than me. And I just started doing what they were doing.
So walk us through that journey. So like you sign up for this class, you're like, hey, I want to start learning about large multifamily investing. Is it like you watch some modules? Do you have somebody hand-holding you? What does that process look like?
Yeah. So jumped into the multifamily mindset coaching program, and I just was like so into it.
Okay.
You know, and I think like everyone's experience is their own.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like for me, I was so into it, so excited that I had a great experience because that's how I approached that. Right.
Yeah.
And so like I seeked guidance, I asked questions, and you know, it's like the squeaky wheel, whatever the saying
gets the grease, right?
Yeah.
Gets the grease.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I was always asking questions and always just trying to like put myself in the room with people that knew what I was trying to know.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So I jumped in, and it wasn't easy. Like, I never want to paint real estate out to be just like sunshine and rainbows. It's not. Like there's challenges, but I think that those challenges helped create and turn me into who I am today. Because like it took me 7 months to get my first multifamily deal. Like 7 months.
And that's you working hard through that 7 months. It's not you just kind of like being on Netflix and occasionally checking something. You're like grinding during that whole 7 months, right?
Correct. Yeah. And also too, and I recommend this for people that are looking to get into real estate. I don't know if I would just quit your job and then jump into real estate. Like, you know, I was running my company while I was learning the multifamily game.
So you still had another source of income. You weren't dependent on like do or die, whether or not you're going to get a deal.
Correct. And I think you should have some sort of buffer there, some sort of like backup income stream while you're learning it until you feel all the confidence in the world that you can go full force. And that's what I did. Is after I got my first deal, my first multifamily deal was 224 units in Fort Worth, Texas. So that first one just opened my eyes up to everything that was possible, and it built my confidence so much, right? Because even when you're new at investing, you're learning it. You get your first deal, and you still might not know. You might not think you know what you're doing. But still, my confidence went up so much, and what I realized, like I could go do that again and again and again and again and again. And that's what we did.
The first one is almost like the proof of concept. And we see this over and over with investors. When you're just getting started, like there's so much work that goes into finding your first deal. And like all that work is unpaid. Like the thing about being an entrepreneur is like you don't get paid unless there's an actual result. And like, so just by clocking in hours, you're getting like $0, sometimes negative because you're spending money on like training or marketing or whatever it is. So then it's so frustrating in that first period of time. But once you get that first one, now you have the momentum. And over that period of time, you built up a skill set and a confidence where you feel like you can do it over and over again.
Yeah. And I believe this. I believe this to my core. And I tell people all the time, like the only time you'll lose in this business is if you quit. Right? Like if you can be tough enough to go from like right now when you're deciding to do real estate, no matter what avenue, if you can be tough enough to go from right now till the first deal, then sky's the limit. But you got to be tough enough to go from here to there, right? And then they say it's the law of the first deal. And that's a very real thing.
What is that? I've never heard that before.
So law of the first deal is like, once you get the first deal, there's proof of concept. Now you have credibility. Now you have momentum. Now you have confidence. And once you have those things, it becomes easier to get your next deal. And a lot of the time when people get their first deal, the rest of them come in rapid succession after that. And that's exactly what happened with me because it took 7 months to get the first one. But then to get the second one took 10 days.
I mean, I swear I hear that over and over again. Like the first deal is like took months and months. The second one came very quickly, within like weeks or a month or something. And then now you're snowballing, you get the momentum. There's so many things that happen for you once you get that first deal. But that's a cool law. I've never heard that law or like heard that before. So law of the first deal. And I didn't close on the second property 10 days later. We got an LOI, a letter of intent, accepted on the second deal 10 days after we closed on the first. And that was another 144 units in Houston, Texas. And that was like my true baby. That's the one I started, did the entire acquisitions process, raised the capital, underwrote the deal. We asset managed. Like that's a fun deal for sure. So, I mean, when you first started, so you joined the coaching program, you start learning, you start grinding very hard. In the first 7 months, after 7 months, you get your first deal, 200 units. Now you're up to 2,000 units, which is which is insane in such a short period of time. What's the difference between, I guess, someone like yourself and somebody who like tries it for some months, let's say 7 months, they can't get their first deal and then they quit, you know?
Yeah. And unfortunately, we see that a lot, you know, and that's why I always try to shoot people as straight as I can. Hey, the toughest part of this business is right now while you're learning, just like anything new though, right? When you learn, when you're doing anything new, there's always a learning curve. And the real estate game, there's very much like you have to talk the talk, you know, and you have to be able to go walk the walk after that. And so Yeah, that's kind of how it worked. But going from, that first year doing 368 units and 37 million of assets in my first year, going from there to here, that all stemmed from partnerships and believing in people, learning how to leverage other people and their skill sets to be able to help them and help me at the same time.
So, I mean, like, what's a typical day look like? Let's say, so you just signed up for the course.
Yeah.
First week, what does that look like? Are you watching modules? Are you trying to get on calls? Are you trying to talk to people, get in rooms? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I jumped in. First thing I was doing was going through training modules and scheduling calls with my coaches.
Okay.
And I paid for the coaching, right? And so for me, if I was going to pay for the coaching, I was going to get my money's worth.
You know what's very funny is that I hear a lot of guys where like they'll pay like a tons of money for coaching, and then they never like make use of it. It sits on their shelf, or like they don't watch the modules, they don't go to the calls, and like they basically just waste their money because they didn't take any action after they signed up.
Yes, because it's not about what happens like at the event or when you purchase. It's what happens after. The fulfillment side. And so like I told myself if I was going to spend the money on it, I was going to abuse the resources.
That's the best way to do it.
Abuse them. And so I did. Like I was definitely the loudest one. I was always asking questions. I was very active in our community.
Yeah.
And because of that, like doors opened for me. My name started getting recognized just for being active. And then next thing you know, opportunities are coming from me or at me left and right. Yeah, a lot of cool things.
It's very interesting that you say that, because even in my own experience, whenever like I see like we're in different communities, whenever there's a guy who's hungry and he's like talking and he's basically being the squeaky wheel like everywhere, like he gets more resources, and I want to give him more resources because I know he's going to make the most of it. The guys who I don't want to help or give resources are the guys who are not squeaky and they're not doing anything. But if a guy is like, he's actively trying, he's actually putting himself out there, I want to give him more resources. So it's almost like this law of attraction is happening as you're kind of like going through this journey with and trying to put yourself out there more. Yeah,
there's definitely a right and wrong way to do it, right? You want to be like that squeaky wheel, but you also want to like always come from a place of adding value and providing value.
That's a big distinction. So if they're always just asking for favors, it's different than trying to give, and then like also provide value while you're asking for at the same time.
100%.
Do you guys have like maybe like a student who's like an all-star beside yourself that kind of came up after you or at the same time as you when you're trying to learn?
There's tons. Like there's tons. And the trend that I see are the people that like are fully engaged with the communities, right? Like your community, our community, whatever it might be. The people that are engaged and connecting with other people. Like if there's local meetups, you go to the meetups. Like the people that are all in, like those are the ones that see the results.
But I mean, sometimes it feels like when you're going part of these communities, like you're spending time just talking to people or having conversations. It feels like sometimes I feel like I'm not doing work. Like, when you're quote unquote like networking or things, like how do you distinguish between like doing like actually like looking for deals or underwriting things versus just having like smoozing or like with the other guys,
like just like distinguishing between just chit chat and actual business conversations,
or even like what's kind of like the thought process as you're going into these like say networking meetings or these Zoom calls,
Yeah. So I think it starts going into it strategically, like knowing what you're after.
Okay.
And then also knowing like what you have to provide to other people.
Okay.
Like what is your value, right? And so like you just go and you be strategic with that. You approach it with like what you're looking for, and then you can also kind of reverse engineer. Hey, okay, if I'm looking to go. Like say I'm in the middle of a deal and I'm raising $1 million for that deal. Okay. So now I know like to make that event worth it, like maybe I can go try to network with people that are potential buyers, potential investors.
Okay.
And so I'll go and like, then you can kind of guide the conversations a certain way, but also too, if a conversation goes away where like an individual is not an investor, then you don't just stop because of that. Right. You continue to add value or you find a way that you could add value to that person, and you never know, maybe that person now connects you after they start asking about what you're looking for. If they're not a right fit, maybe they walk you across the room and connect you to someone that they know that is.
You know what's kind of crazy is over my course of like my short career where I've gone to networking events and things, and so I've had conversations with guys who they're like, I reached out to this other investor in Hawaii, and like I had money that I wanted to invest with her, but he kind of like was a dick to me and he blew me off. So then I decided not to invest with him. But I want to invest with you because like you gave me the time of day and like you spent some time with me, add some value first without expecting anything in return. And like I swear I hear that like over and over again. And so a lot of times when you have these meetups, if you can just like add value, whatever you can to a person's life, sometimes it's their mother or their brother, maybe they don't have the money, or like another friend, but if they give you a good recommendation, now like they want to partner with you, or you're basically building like a future book of business as you're going to these different events.
Big time. I think so much of business is like you're creating an experience for somebody.
Yeah.
Like if you create a good experience for them on that first interaction, they won't forget that. Right. And it can't just be transactional. It has to go deeper than that. It has to be bigger than like material things. Right. There has to be connection, and people can feel your energy. People know like, hey, is this guy like a good person? Is he not? And I never the more you can think about other people, the better. It comes back to the relationship side of the business.
I feel like you're really good at that. Like when we first went to like the multifamily mindset, you were one of the reasons why we actually signed up, was because we felt like you were adding a ton of value to us, and we thought you were going to continue to add value, which you did. And from like everything you promised, you delivered on. So thank you very much for like all like the help you gave us on our journey. Yeah. But I just like, how do you do that? And like, how can somebody else learn from you to do the exact same thing? You know,
I think for me, part of the reason why it comes easy is because I've been on the other side. You know, like I've been the one that got all the help in the world. I've been the one that people like stuck their neck out for me and like helped me at times that were pretty dark, you know? And so like coming from that side, it's easier for me to flip the script and put myself in someone else's shoes. And all I ever want to do, like if I can go make an impact, like I keep coming back to that word impact, but like that is where like I get my fulfillment. Like I love making money from real estate. That's great. But where I get my fulfillment is from helping other people. And like that comment you just made, like, thank you for helping us along our journey. Like that will stand out to me. Like that is why I do those things. And for me, like it just drives and stems like all of my conversations moving forwards is like coming from a place of impact and value.
It's almost like a mindset or like a perspective you have whenever you go to these events. You're trying to make an impact. Are you actively have that in your mind, or is it just kind of like in your subconscious when you're going to these events?
You know, it comes raw in the moment. Sometimes these opportunities pop up and it's just like you hear someone, and it doesn't always have like come from just like a business standpoint. Like we're at Peak Partnership, not this last one, the one before that, but like there was this woman, I saw her like bolt out of the conference, like bolt out, bawling her face off. And there was just like a bombing in her hometown in a different country. And I just saw her crying. So I just like sat with her for like 30 minutes and I just like tried to be there for her. And she remembered that forever. She reached out like 6 months later and she said she has like 2 investors looking to place funds into multifamily deals. And she just connected them to me. And I was just like I didn't mean for that. That wasn't meant to happen that way, but it was very organic. But I think it just stemmed from being like a human being, like a good person.
It's almost how like, it's like karma almost, right? Where like you're putting out so much like seeds into the world. You're sowing good things. 90% of them are not really going to return, but that 10% is going to come back. And a lot of times the seeds you're sowing are free. It's just like taking, maybe it's like a little bit of your mental energy or your time or your attention towards somebody else in the space.
Yeah. But again, those are the moments that bring you the most fulfillment.
Yeah. And so even if like she never even brought you an investor, just helping that person by itself was worth like the
100%.
The effort. So.
And it didn't take anything from me, like maybe 30 minutes of my time at the event, but things can wait. Like she was in need, but those kind of situations, like it humanizes you. You remember what it's like to be a human. You're not there for transactional purposes, but if you can just be a good person, go to these events, try to add value wherever you can, doors will open for sure.
As you're as you're on your journey to like buying all these like hundreds of units or thousands of units, and like, was there ever a time where like there was a big challenge or something that was like, it was very, very hard for you during that period?
Yeah. There's been nonstop challenges, nonstop. Yeah.
Maybe like the top 2 things that kind of stick out to your mind? Like maybe like, so that on your journey, right? There's always things where like things are like a little difficult, but you overcome them. But there are times in our journey where we're like, I don't know if I can like do this anymore. Like this is like this could basically, I might want to quit just because of this. Like, was there any moments like that on your journey to 2,000 units?
Yeah. Like right now we're in the middle of one of them.
Okay.
Like right now. Okay. So we've done well, right? Like we've got a good track record, built a strong portfolio. We're very grateful for that. We feel very blessed to be in the position we are. That said, we also have realized, my team and I, and I wouldn't be anywhere without my partners, Brett and Megan Davenport, love them to death. Like we are where we are because like we all have different skill sets and we focus on our strengths.
Talk to me about that a little bit more. I mean, just to bunny trail us off, is like whenever you're building a team, you kind of don't want like 5 Eric Chadderons, right? You want to have like a Megan and a Brett, and like we all bring different things to the table. How do you go about finding your partners, and like what does that whole process look like for you?
Yeah, so if we had 5 Eric Chadderons, we'd have more capital than we ever need.
But so your superpower is raising money.
Building relationships, and taking care of the investors post-close. But like that wouldn't get me the deals, or that wouldn't manage my properties post-close, right? And so the way it worked with Brett and Megan is we all have different skill sets.
Okay.
And also too, for those that don't know, Brett and Megan Davenport, they are my wife's mom and dad.
Okay.
So they are my in-laws.
Okay. So you can't screw up that relationship.
You can't screw up the relationship, right? Like I was very hesitant to be in business with my in-laws.
That's really tricky. I think a lot of times like I would like advise people not to go into business with family because whenever there's friction in the business, it's gonna bleed over into the family, right?
Yeah, so. and things will trickle over into like the
both
family.
ways, right?
Both ways, and you don't want it to, but naturally it will if you're running a business together. Yeah. So I was very hesitant. In fact, I didn't even mean to bring them in on the business with me. It was a complete accident. I finished my 3-day training, just like what you went to. I finished my 3-day and I was super hyped up, excited, and we were frying a turkey back in 2020.
Okay.
And I was just telling Brett about what I was learning, and I was just excited about it. Yeah. And at the end, Brett was like, "Man, that sounds awesome." And I was like, "Yeah, it's going to be awesome." And then he was like, "Well, I should be your partner." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that sounds great to partner with my girlfriend's parents," because it was my girlfriend at the time. And it just obviously did not sound great. Because I mean, for me, first and foremost, like my top priority was my relationship with their daughter. And my relationship with them. And this was a new business. I didn't know if I was going to succeed. I'd never done it before. It was completely new. So I was learning everything. And the last thing I wanted to do was to have it not work and then have that impact my family relationship.
Yeah, and that's a huge gamble on both sides, right? On the business and also in your family, where like it's gone well so far, but it could have gone like really badly as well too, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about it. Like this was my girlfriend's parents at the time, and now we're married, of course. But I mean, it was going to go one of two ways. We're either going to go do a bunch of deals together and be happy, or, maybe I got to find a new wife. I don't know. But it worked out the way it did. And I'm very blessed for it because Brett and Megan, like we tested the waters for a few months and we just worked really, really well.
I think that's really important. Like having a test on the people. A lot of times we'll jump into a marriage right away without having like a test or like, cause like a lot of people will say they'll do one thing but then the way when they actually are in the partnership, the experience is very different. So having like a month of people like, hey, let's work together, see what your work ethic is like. If we're in the same path with core values, same direction, like that's really important in the relationship.
I think all of it comes down to like your morals and values. Like if they align, you will make decisions the same way. And countless times have we been approached with situations where it's like, hey, how would you handle this? And like, would you do this? And this is what I'm thinking. And we align every time. And it's because we care about people.
That's good. Yeah.
We, like something that we say at Gibby's Capital, my investment company, is we always say people before profits.
Yeah, I love
every
that.
Day.
I love that.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's very hard in business to have that perspective of people over profits. A lot of businesses are like profits over people, but I feel like in the short term, like you'll make more money if you do like profits over people, but in the long term, it's always better to have people over profits.
Yeah. And especially the right people, like with Brett and Megan to the previous question, it was like the reason why we work is because we all have completely different skills, right? Okay. So it's like in the multifamily space, you got your acquisitions and your underwriting side. Okay. You've got asset management.
So the acquisition underwriting is the guys is finding the deal and like kind of like figuring out whether or not it's a good deal or not.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. So they're sourcing the deal from the brokers, building the broker relationships, getting the deal, and then underwriting the property and dealing with the property from when you find it all the way through the acquisitions process to the closing.
Because you have to like figure out, okay, is due diligence period, right? Is it in good shape? Are the tenants paying? What's like the economy in the area? All the different things that like it's very research intensive on that part.
Yeah, and so that role is very much intense during the early stages.
Yeah.
And then after we acquire the property, get the property under contract, then it passes over to me. Okay. And then after we close on the property, it goes to Megan, and she comes like, so here's how it works. So Brett, he has a finance background. He was an executive at a company called Jacobs. Okay. And so he's like amazing with Excel spreadsheets. He's a numbers guru.
Thank God for people like that.
Thank God, right? Like he is amazing in that avenue, which is great. And it was so funny when he said, I should be your partner. I was like hesitant, right? Yeah. But then I was like, all right, show me what you got. Yeah. So he busts out his laptop, shows me a spreadsheet. and like there's like 11 tabs on the bottom, and you change one number on tab 1, it changes 37 numbers on all 11 different tabs. And I was like, you can be my underwriter for sure. So he's the underwriter because of his background. And I think this is a good tip for like anyone looking to get into real estate is figure out where your skill sets are from your previous business or your previous job or just life in general, and figure out like where they can translate into the real estate game, and then focus on that and become a superstar at that. And then like Megan, for example, my mother-in-law, she comes from a construction background. So she can very easily be like, oh, that's wood rot, or that's mold, or that's water damage. She knows how much it costs to fix it and how quick she can do it. And that experience is so valuable to our team. And she's super structured and organized as well. And my brain doesn't work that way. You know,
I'm like, that's like one challenge too, is like, some people are like live in Excel. Some people hate Excel. Some people like talking to people. Some people don't like talking to people. Some people are super organized. Some people are like dreamers. And it's such a breath of fresh air when you find somebody who doesn't like to do the thing, or who likes to do the thing that you hate.
Yes.
Like, you know, it's crazy. So when we were hiring our admin, like a long time ago, we were sitting down in an interview, and I just assumed like people hate like tedious, like computer work, like emails. I just assume everybody hates it because I hate it, you know? And then I was like, oh, so like, what do you enjoy? Like what are you looking forward to? It's like, you know, I really like the tedious like work and like the fine details and going through. I was like, are you just telling me this because you want the job? Like, no, she genuinely likes it. I'm like, thank God for people like you. Great. Like, you know, it's like perfect. Like you enjoy doing the thing that I hate, and like you're good at it too. And it's like whenever you can find a partner like that, it's like your father-in-law and your mother-in-law, it's like it works so well together.
Yeah. Know? And that is why we've scaled so quickly, because, and then I do the other. So Megan does the asset management, and then I do all the capital raising, investor relations, social media, content creation, just marketing and overall brand development to attract investors to us so we can fund the deals. Right. And so it goes from Brett, and then Brett gets it under contract. Then it comes to me. I go fund the deal, and then we pass it to Megan after we close, and then I manage all the investors post close.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful system you guys got.
System. Yeah. And so by the time we're closing on a deal, like for the last 3.5 years, by the time we close, Brett's already ready to go with another deal on deck with an accepted LOI. Like it's a functioning, beautiful system. It's so
good when you can just focus on like your superpower and what you enjoy doing. Like, you know, because like whenever you have to like switch gears and do something else, like if you had to do the underwriting, it would take all your mental bandwidth from like the relationship building, like the capital raising. Now you're only going to be doing like that at 30%, and you're probably going to be doing like the underwriting at 50%. So like but if you get into the 100% and what you're laying at, like it'll multiply like tenfold at that point.
Big time. Yeah. Like we like, I always say this, but like you can go way further, way faster with the right people.
Yeah. And that's one thing I think is very cool about the multifamily space is it's such a team game. Like when if you like, let's say you're wholesaling or flipping or like doing Airbnbs, you can do it as a team, but a lot of times you can also do it by yourself. And so you're having to wear a lot of the hats and like you're having to do all the different parts. But when you do jump into the multifamily game, that's where like it's made to have like a team. Like it's not made to have like a single person operator in those spaces.
Yeah. And earlier you asked me about like problems we've faced, right? So like to tie this all back full circle, like we are facing that right now.
Okay.
And the reason why is we've gotten where we are today because of like who we have on the team, like Brett, Megan, myself. But also too, like our quality of life, like in any business you do, like you're always going to have to hustle and grind it out at the very beginning. That's part of it. You have to get into the trenches. But like we've gotten to the point where our portfolio is over 2,000 units. Now, like it's just not scalable anymore. Like now we need to add more people. And so since 2024, great book to read, Dan Martell, we were just talking about it, Buy Back Your Time.
Love that
Phenomenal book. Phenomenal book. So I've been very, very intentional with my actions and my learning, and because the learning never stops, right? And so I've been very intentional with learning about how to scale and build a foundation. And a lot of that comes because a lot of people think if you want more revenue, if you want more sales, if you want more properties, you have to go put in more time. He teaches a different principle. Now it's like you can go scale and get bigger and grow with less time by utilizing people. And so like we hired an investor relations specialist. We brought on 2 more partners to our company, Gibby's Capital. I also hired my first assistant. We have an admin. So
congratulations by that. How does it feel to have an assistant, man?
Night and day difference, night and day. Like, and you don't even realize. And like, so every single day what she does is she puts together like her items on her list for the day. And then she checks back in at the end of the day and she shows me all the things that she completed. And I'm like, every single day I'm in awe. I'm baffled. I'm like, wow, that she did that.
And that's like hundreds of things that you're taking off your plate, so you don't even have to think about it.
Yes.
What's crazy is like before I had an assistant, it was like I just assumed like you just have to do these things yourself. There wasn't another option. But now like after you have an assistant and you see how easier it makes your life, like I could never go back to not having an assistant. It's like, it's never. Crazy how much like more productive and more bandwidth you have when you have somebody to kind of help you with like the administrative tasks or other things that are involved.
Yeah. So. And you look back and you see this list and you're like, how was I doing that, and all of that before? Like, I don't even know how I was doing it.
Yeah.
But when you try to do that too much at any time, like that's when things start slipping through the cracks.
Yeah.
And that's when you start giving, we talked earlier about like business as an experience.
Yeah.
That's when you start giving people a bad experience.
Yeah.
And that's when it starts impacting your ability to grow because of maybe bad reputation. So it's actually doing your business a favor by scaling the right way and putting people in place that can help you go further and faster.
We were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier, is that like whenever you're trying to scale or trying to go to like another level, number one, you can't do the things that got you there to do more of it. Cause like one way is like, let's say I want to make, I'm working as a chef, right? I'm going to bake a cake and I can make, let's say like $100 an hour baking this cake. So I work for 40 hours a week. If I want to make more, double, I'll just work 80 hours, right? If I want to make triple, I'll work 120. And so like a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we think like, let's just do more and more work and we'll scale it by just adding more of ourselves and just putting more hours. But at a certain point that hits a limit where like, you can only work like 16 hours a day. And even that is like crazy. Like, like you only can be productive maybe like 12 or 10, like realistically. So then you have to find a different paradigm in order to scale. And you have to like completely reshape your thinking in order to kind of get to the next level.
Man, what you said there is so spot on. You're like, what got you here is not what's going to get you there. Like you said that, and I was like, wow, that is so powerful. Cause it's true. Cause some of us, we think like we get to a certain point and we're like, oh yeah, I'll just keep doing that to get me to the next level. It doesn't work. Like you have to be able to pivot. You have to like do different things to get different results. So.
There's a book I read recently. It's called 10x is easier than 2x. I don't know if you heard of it before.
No, I haven't. But
super interesting idea is like the whole way is like the thought is like the way you try to solve a problem determines on what your x is. So let's say like we make $100,000 a year as a company, and like I want to get to 200,000. If I want to get to 200,000, I just have to like double like let's say like my leads or my flow, and I can get to 200. So just double the amount of work that's being done. But if I want to get to 1 million, like a 10x. Now I can't just 10x like my lead flow. There has to be like another paradigm shift. And so like you have to like rethink the way that you're solving the entire problem from the very beginning. And now as you're rethinking it, now you have to think of like a way bigger opportunity. As you're doing that, there'll be like, you'll maybe get to the 5x, maybe you won't hit that, but then you got to like way more than if you're just trying to solve it as a 2x problem. So.
Yeah. It's like even if you come up short, you're still exceeding like the old 2x.
Yeah. But the way that you solve the problem on a 10x is way different than the way you solve a problem on a 2x. Like let's say I want to make $100,000 a year, right? Like, okay, like I can just work at W2 and work up to my corporate ladder, right? But if I want to make 1 million, I can't solve it using the same set of tools. I have to think of a completely different set of tools in order to get to that level. And so it just, the frame of just trying to go to 10x is like, it just changes your paradigm shift to kind of come with a completely different creative solution for that.
Yeah. So it almost forces you to think bigger.
Yeah. I love it. It forces you to think bigger.
I love that.
So
that's cool.
A lot of times in our life, I think there's like, whenever you have constraints, it forces you to think outside the box, and you come with a solution that's like, that blows away anything that you created like previously, so.
Yeah. And sometimes like that creative thought process, sometimes that's like the fun part. Right. Because like we say it in real estate investing all the time, but like problems can lead to opportunity. Right. And so it's like, I get thrown curveballs left and right, but those curveballs, like how you handle those is what will determine your success. And so, but it's also a chance for you to grow and get better and be like, like how can I overcome it this time? And then when you do it, like there's a huge sense of fulfillment there. So
100%. So you guys, your biggest hurdle right now is scaling. Is that what you guys are trying to go through?
Yeah. So we're just putting new bodies. We're bringing new bodies in, and that's like, old carve outs and old, revenue that's coming in. Now it has to be allocated different areas. And so we're like learning that on the fly as we go. And sometimes it takes some testing but we're having fun with it for sure.
The one thing I think people don't realize is whenever like you have a business, there is this part where like you're doing or working, but you're not getting paid for it. So like whenever like you're like, okay, I made $100,000 in a side business, but then like, if you wanted to like carve yourself out, you'd only make like 20 grand because like you have to pay somebody else to do all the work that you're doing. So I think whenever you're scaling or building a business to a bigger level, you always have to take them to mind as far as like the opportunity, because you have to make sure there's enough room for you and the people who you would hire to replace yourself out of it.
Yeah. And sometimes people forget that.
Yeah.
They do.
So, I mean, as you guys are scaling, is it like, how are you finding these team members? Is it like Indeed? Is it Craigslist? Like, is it like prior friendships? How are you finding these team members?
So right now we've been utilizing our network, people that we've built relationships with within our community, we've figured out what their skill sets are. And a lot of the time, it stems from like them just wanting to provide value for us. Like one of the people that we brought on as partners in our company, this is so crazy, but this is like the epitome of what we're talking about, like providing value first. This couple, they live in Houston, Sean and Yormary, they're amazing people. And they like worked for Gibby's basically for like an entire year with zero expectation of anything in return. They didn't ask for money. They didn't ask for anything. They just did that to help us. And I was mind blown. Like that is very difficult to do. Like everyone has their own lives. They got their families, kids, marriage, whatever it might be, whatever's going on in their life. But like for them to take time out to just add value to us, like it just was super eye-opening. We were just like, wow, like they care more about our business than like anyone else besides us. Yeah. They might as well be a part of it. Yeah. And so we gave them ownership. We surprised them one day and we're like, hey, we want to bring you in as partners within our business. The last thing we want to do is hold you back from your growth. But if you're open to it, like you're already helping us so much, you might as well have some equity in some shares of our company and build this with us.
I love that. It's such a happy ending. I mean, like the people are investing in you and they're putting in all this work for free, trying to add value to you and your company. And then I love the fact that you rewarded them with like a bigger opportunity.
Yeah.
But then just to backtrack a little bit on that, why do you think that they were doing this for free for you? Like, why were they doing that?
I asked myself that quite a bit. I think it just stems, you go back to like morals and values and we built relationships with them, but they just wanted to provide value. Like sometimes there's those unicorns and all they want to do is like help somebody. Those people like I align with really well because like I, a lot of time want to go out of my way to help other people. And so when it's very rare that someone does that for us. And so when I see that, I just want to capitalize on it. And I'm the type where I just don't like people doing things for me for nothing. Like I don't like that. It makes me feel a certain way. And so it's like,
it's funny. Like I had this exact same like talk with our guy the other day. It's like, I hate being in debt to somebody. Like, whenever somebody does you a favor, I hate that feeling. Like I like the feeling of doing a favor to somebody else and then them being in debt to me. But we recently, so most of our partnerships, I feel like we've kind of gone above and beyond and kind of like we provided more value in the partnership. Recently, we got into a partnership with this other dude where he's actually providing more value than we are. And it feels very, like, I don't like that feeling. Like, like that feeling of just like they're giving you more value than you're giving them. Like, I just don't like that feeling. It's so weird.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I was starting to feel when all of this work, I was like, this just doesn't feel right to me. I don't like somebody to do something for me and like not have proper compensation. We just offered him ownership in the company because here's what the thing with value. If you can provide enough value to the point where now like, that business doesn't operate the same way without that value. Now you're an asset. Like you have built yourself into an asset.
Say that again.
Yeah. So if you get to a point where you're like providing value for somebody else to the point where now that business won't run the exact same way without you, now you are an asset to that organization. And that's what they were. Like we wouldn't be able to asset manage the properties that we do without Sean and Yormary. And so now it's like we couldn't even imagine going and doing deals without them. And same thing, we have some of our other students from Phoenix, Travis and Kristen Hopkins. They're amazing people. And like they've helped like tremendously with our investor relations side. And now it's almost to the point where I don't want to go do a deal without them because they're helping so much on the investor relations side. And it's allowing me to go focus on more income producing opportunities for our company.
That's such a good point that you make, or such an insightful thought, is that as you're going into a partnership or relationship or whatever it is, if you can get to the point where you're adding so much value that like if you were to pull away the value you're adding, that person or that team would suffer. Like now you are a true asset to that team or that company. Like, I never thought about that, but it's like that's such a good way to just insert yourself, whether you're a W-2 employee or you're a team member or you're just trying to get into a team, like just like add so much value that like your absence would be like missed, right? Because if you're like, let's say you think you're adding value, but then like you leave and like we didn't notice it, then like you're not adding as much value as you thought.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
But then I mean, just to kind of like stay on this thought process or this train a little bit longer, there are so many other investors that they could have added value to. What do you think it is about you and your team that they wanted to choose you to add their value to or versus somebody else? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it stems from just more of like us building a relationship with them. So we built relationships and we provided value to them at the beginning of their journeys. But as they progressed as investors, they saw issues, like, because every business has gaps, like no matter who you are, you have voids, you have gaps. And so when someone comes in and they see those gaps and those voids in your business and they want to fill them or help you to fill them, that is like tremendous value. And so I think it just was like good relationships that we built with them. We helped some of them just get their businesses off the ground. And then they just saw opportunities to add value back to us. And that's where,
because there's something that you're doing that you're attracting this, right? It's because it's not just like happening by like, you're not just lucky. I mean, like there's a little bit of luck involved, but like there's something you're doing with your business and like the way that you're putting yourself out there, you and your team, that you're attracting this vibe with people who want to give and want to help, you know? So I'm just trying to dissect how you can replicate or duplicate that.
I think it's one, like the family aspect of our business, but also two, like, we do business the right way, and we're very clean and clear with that. Like we have like very specific morals and values, the way we handle decisions and the way we approach things. And I think a lot, like people can learn it, people can do it, but it just stems from like doing things the right way. You know, do what's right. Always.
Can you give an example of like when you had like maybe a decision or like the things that you guys are doing, like, because I hear it's kind of cliche, right? Like we're good people, we do things the right way, but like to have maybe like a concrete example of like this is like what we mean by that.
In my part, and I'll say this without naming any names, so there's a partner of mine that I know and I've done deals with, and they were partnered with somebody else. And once things with their partnership, so partner one was partnered with partner one was partnered with his partner. And then partner two was partnered with partner one and his partner. I know that's confusing. But anyway, when things started getting muddy with partner one and his partner, these partners over here, first thing they did was start like talking about these partners and then came to us saying, hey, we can offer our services, we can partner with you. But I'm also very close with partner one. And so like I recognize that. And so Brett and Megan, my partners, they trust me. And I just said like the way, like how quick they flipped on these people. I recognize that. And I was like, that's just not someone I would want to do business with. Instead of like when there's, you know, when the water's a little muddy, instead of offering aid to help that and say, hey, let's clear the water, let's try to fix this problem. First thing they did was ran the other way and tried to like pick up more clients and pick up, you know, more business, more partnerships elsewhere. When really like I value this partnership with this individual. So does that make sense?
That 100% makes sense.
So I tried to say that without naming names.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but I mean, and it's like a subtle thing, but then just like the way that you do business with your current partners is probably a reflection of how you do part with your partners in the future. So like if all the partners you ever did business with, like they always like, they're super happy, they feel like they got a ton of value, your future partners will probably be very similar or the same. But if your current partners are like, I feel like I got ripped off in this thing, Daniel took like 90%, I got 10, Daniel made a lot of money, but like I'm not happy with this. And like when I go to the next guy, he's like, well, like Daniel's probably going to take like 90 again. Like, you know, so it's just like the way that you're doing this with your current partnerships, the current clients or customers, then it says a lot about how like your current track record is going to inform like your future decision making as well too, right?
Yeah. And I think for me too, like no matter what, there's going to be problems that arise. Like you have to be ready for those because they're going to come and they're going to keep on coming. The type of partner that I would want is a partner that's like, hey, when a problem arises or when a storm comes, hey, we're going to weather that storm with you, not run and try to make new partnerships with people that you introduced us to. You know, that's the partner I want. Like, hey, let's fight the fight together and let's win the fight together. And that's how ultimately we will win if we continue to fight together.
Yeah, I really, really like that. I mean, like, but along the same lines, like, what if, let's say, like, because when I feel like that in the game, in the world of partnerships, there's always like a beginning and end to every partnership, right? So like no partnerships are gonna last forever, except maybe like your wife or like your kids, right? But then like in the long run, there's times when partners have to break because let's say like one's outgrowing the other, or they have difference of trajectories or changes. Like at what point do you think it's okay to like separate from your partner and kind of go in like another direction?
I think this is a great topic. I think regardless, like you said, partnerships will eventually expire, and that has to be okay. Like people go through their own growth journey in their own way at their own time. But what the key here is communication. Like if you communicate like the right way the entire time, and you're not doing things behind the other partner's backs, like it's okay for partnerships to end and people to go their own route. In fact, I encourage it. Like I want people to grow their own way at every turn, right? I never want to hold someone back from their own growth. So, but if someone just came to me and said, hey, like even Brett and Megan, for example, like my business would suffer for sure. But at the same time, you like, it's all how you look at it. It's all your mindset, right? Like I could look at it and be like, oh, my business is done for, like we're over, right? Megan does my asset management. Brett does my underwriting. Like we're done without those pieces. Or two, like I could look at it that way. Or two, what I could look at it like is, okay, here's an opportunity for me to step up. Here's an opportunity for me to get creative and grow and find my own pieces, right? And granted, like that will never happen. Like we've got a phenomenal partnership. But in that situation,
knock on wood, right? I mean, like what if somebody like gets sick? What if they get abducted by aliens? So you never know what could happen in life, right? There's so many different, like, maybe it's not their choice. I mean, there's a lot of times there's like things just can happen, right? So,
but like even if they did, and they had an opportunity. Like one, I would hope they take me if there was a big opportunity. But two, even if they didn't, like I would be excited for them, like genuinely excited because I care about them. Like yes, it might like hinder my business for a period of time until I step up and force myself to go find solutions. But at the same time, man, I'd be excited for them. Right? It's like, hey, okay, awesome, you have an opportunity. Man, go for it. Run with it and go hit it big, hit it out of the park. And then I would go find my own solutions because that would be my role at that point.
I think there's also like a healthy way of just like not holding things too tightly. I think whenever like we hold things like too tightly, it's unhealthy. But if you hold things with open hands, knowing that like this person can leave and you have your blessing, it also helps your current working relationship. And then also when they do leave, it's like you can keep the friendship, and like as long as you leave on good terms, then like you guys will both be able to like partner in the future or support each other, and it'll be like you guys will both rise together. Right? If you like leave on bad terms, one guy should screw over the other person or something, like now that's where okay, like there will be like a more challenges on that end. But even if that does happen, like you just do your part to make sure that you did your part, and then now when you move to your next partner, you can say like, here's how I exited this one, here's what happened, I have a clear conscience, let's do like the next thing, right? So,
and how you end those, and just like any business, there should always be some sort of exit strategy, right? But how you end those partnerships, like that will determine whether or not you eventually ever do business with them again. Right? So just like what goes around comes around. Do business the right way, people before profits, and doors will continue to open, even doors that maybe one day were closed.
No, 100%. I mean, from the moment when we met you guys met you at a multifamily mindset, I always felt like you had like a good vibe about you, and just your perspective on life just confirms like because like, you know, when you meet somebody, you just have like a gut intuition like about this person. Sure. So I feel like Eric's a good guy. I mean, obviously it's not going to be 100% right all the time, but just the more I get to know you, the more I get to see the way that you run your business and like kind of like your vision and your perspective on life. It aligns exactly with the way that we see the world too. Like, you know, just trying to add value and then just being a good partner and a good human being, you know, in general.
But also too, like to your point, like you did a great job. Like, you know, we've closed a multifamily deal together, right? 102 units in Houston.
That was all you, Bryce. Super. Thank you for that opportunity. We appreciate it.
Well, we're partners. But what's cool is like when we were talking to you about that opportunity, you didn't just jump in. Like even though we had a relationship, like it still had to make sense. I remember talking to you at Peak. And like we were going back and forth, questions, answers. You were making sure it was a sound investment opportunity. And like I think the relationship side was there. Like we wanted to do a deal together for sure, but also too, it can't just be about like the relationship. It still needs to be like a good opportunity. And you asked amazing questions. Like you vetted us the right way. You vetted the partnership, the deal. But that, like, I love that stuff because knowing I have somebody like that I would bring in as a partner, knowing that they're going to ask those kind of questions, man, it keeps me on my game. So
I know sometimes it's very easy. Like sometimes we'll have like, I guess, investors or partners who are like, they're like, it's a hassle, right? Because whenever they ask so many questions, it's like, how about this? Like, what if this happens? And then sometimes it's like, I never thought about that. You know, it's like, that's a really good question. It's a big hassle on our end to kind of solve it or to like think through it. And then it makes you better as an investor and as an entrepreneur because you're fixing or like you're fixing the potential problems that could be happening down the road that they're coming to come up with, you know?
Yeah. So. And also too, like questions, they aren't necessarily like, to me, a question isn't like, hey, someone's questioning you as an individual. The questions mean like, hey, like I might just be naturally curious about this aspect, or maybe I don't know this aspect, and it's an opportunity for you to add more value and educate along the way. And for me, once again, that education or impact, that's where I get the most fulfillment. And so I see questions not as like, hey, I'm questioning you, Eric, as an individual. It's like, hey, like I just might want to know this, or I need to understand this better. So I love those things, man. So, but you did a good job there for sure.
I mean, I don't remember that, but I appreciate that. Thank you for that. So.
No, at Peak, so we were talking about the deal, and I think it was it that one? Yeah, it was the Royal Wayside one, I think, last year. Yeah, it was last year. And so it was before we closed on Royal. We were talking to you about it at Peak, and it was just like, you were asking us good questions.
No, I remember now because I was like, I was still trying to vet you guys out. Like, you seem like a great guy, but the thing is, like, there's a difference between like being trustworthy and then knowing how to like run the deal, right? And so I was like, do you guys really know your stuff? Because you're on the newer side too, right? Like, you didn't have the experience of like somebody that is 20 plus years, but I was like, hey, do you guys know? So I was like talking to Brett, I think a lot. It's like, he's like, hey, what about this? What about this? But he's like, more than answered all my questions, and he seemed to like have like a good understanding. Like he said all the right things, like, as far as like to a friend investor to want to partner with you guys, and so like that, you guys got a really solid team over there. So.
And what's cool is like that deal, like we just had a little bit of an occupancy dip just this quarter. But like the deal, like the fundamentals of the deal are performing amazing. Like we projected, I don't even know, $110 rent bumps in the first year. We're not even a year in. And I mean, I think in the last 2 months, we've had over 5 units that we've increased the rents by over $350.
Wow.
Like we are exceeding our rent projections on a number of our units. And so once we bump the occupancy up, we're going to be far ahead of our business plan. So
that's one thing too, is like, this goes back to like the short-term or long-term like vision, where like a lot of guys are like, they're overpromised just to get investors in the door and then under-deliver, right? Where there's like the, hey, I promise you like 30% returns, and then they give them like 5% or they lose their money, right? But then the other guys are like, hey, I'll get you like 20 or 18, like for sure, but this is a conservative number. Then you get them 30 or like 40, and they're like, the investors will love you for that. And then they'll trust you more, and they'll stay for you for the long haul. But then it's a lot hard to get those guys in the door because you're not promising them as big returns because you're conservative and you're trying to be realistic with like your deals and your numbers,
Yeah, 100%. But it's like, it's that whole philosophy of like, you go give somebody, if you tell somebody, hey, I'm going to go give you 25% returns.
Okay.
And then you hit 28, like you're a hero. Right. But if I tell you 25% and then I hit 23, regardless of how good 23% is of an annual return on your investment, like you're now in the doghouse regardless, because you failed short of the expectation. So it's the expectation you set that determines everything. So that's why we always believe like under promise, over deliver every time.
That's so good. I mean, like, I want you to like say that again later, but I mean, just like that's so good. I mean, I never thought things that way, but like that's so good. I mean, like, cause the thing is like 23% returns is incredible. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But because you promised 25, now it's like, okay, you failed me on this thing, right? Versus like, if you said like, you promised like 20 and you give them 23, they're like, and you know what's like, here's like another thing is like, small little like bunny show that I've noticed is that like as a realtor, one of your jobs is to like manage client expectations. So like when a realtor, so like it's like, hey, we can sell your house for, let's say $700,000. You get them $800,000. They're like, oh my gosh, you did amazing. You sold it for $100,000 over asking. You're the best realtor ever, right?
Yeah.
The other guy goes there and he's like, hey, I can get you $850. Like, like whatever. He's like, okay. Job, 800. I feel like you kind of like lied to me over here, right? But it's like the skill set is being able to manage expectation of your client or your partner, where like you can set it in a conservative way and then exceed it, versus like trying to promise them the moon and then just fall short over there, even though they get the exact same result.
I have learned this the hard way countless times. And not from like the investing side, but just even like it stems from everything. Like you should do this with everything and like across your entire life. For me, a big part of it is like communication.
Okay.
Like I spread myself thin a lot, which is why we're working on scaling our business and building foundations, right? Hiring people and the buy back your time principle. But like I do it all the time. Like I will tell people, oh yeah, I'll have an answer for you by the end of the day. And something comes up. And so I've learned like even for me to manage those expectations a little bit better. Right? And instead of saying, hey, I'll have an answer to you by the end of the day, just be, hey, I'll have an answer for you as quick as I can. Might be today, might be tomorrow, but I'll get one, an answer to you as fast as I possibly can. Something like that versus like a concrete time.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we'll have an answer by the end of the week. Like that is a little bit better than saying, hey, I'll have an answer for you by the end of today. Does that make sense?
That's honestly like it's genius. I mean, like, and I do the same thing all the time where like, my intent is to try to get it by the end of the day, right? But like I over promise, and then like I'm like, oh, something comes up, and I under deliver, and I'm like, oh frick, I know. I call them the next day, right? And you're like, you feel like the horrible person because like you promised like, or you told them like the end of the day. Whereas if you just give yourself more time, so like, okay, I'll get to you like as soon as possible, or by the end of the week. Now, if you get them by the next day, you're like, okay, like you over delivered in that promise.
Yeah, so. And it happens in the investing side too. You know, like. There's been times where like we upload our financials for the properties every single month. And there's been times I've been a little bit late on that, and I get messages from investors. And in the past I would be like, oh yeah, I'll get those financials uploaded to the investor portal by today. Yeah. And it's like something pops up. And then I don't. And then next thing you know, first thing tomorrow, I'm getting a text from that investor saying, hey, I thought you were uploading the financials. I've been in there. I can't find them. Yeah. It's like, shoot, you know, like what I should have said is, hey, I'll get them up there as fast as I can. Might be by the end of the week, but they'll be up there for sure. Just give it a little bit of time. Just go check the portal in the next couple of days. They'll be there.
Amazing hack, bro. Like, I love that. I love that.
For sure.
So just like looking forward, maybe like the next 3 or 5 years, where does you and your team, where are you guys headed?
Yeah, so the goal is to get to 10,000 units.
Okay.
You know, we've broke 2,000, but as we've built our business, the more people that we bring in, the faster we're going to be able to scale to that point. We have more people finding deals, more people raising funds for deals, more people managing the assets post-close. So that's kind of where it stems from. But it's like right now when you're building any new business, like you are the business. And as owners, as founders of a company, we don't just want to work in the business. Like we want to work on the business, not in the business. Yeah. And so to do that, like same thing we talked about earlier, like what got us here is not going to get us to 10,000 units. So we have to pivot, do things different. So that's the first side. Second side is, you know, like I'm teaching now. I'm teaching, so I'm putting a lot of effort there to impact more lives, help people realize that they can do this, because like I came into this business with zero experience in real estate. And so I learned it, and I just want to show people that they can do it. You know, because they can. And I tell it like, and this might be unpopular opinion, but you know, everyone's like, oh yeah, if I can do it, you can do it. Like, I will be honest, like I don't think anybody can be a real estate investor. I don't. That said, I think anybody with the right mindset can.
I 100% agree with you. And this is the thing where like it's because of social media and things like anybody can do it. So like technically, like, yes, like you don't have to be smart. You don't have to like come from like money. You don't have to like have knowledge. Anybody can like technically do it. But there's such a small amount of people who actually have success or large success because the mindset it takes, everything is between here. Like this is where everything, all the magic happens.
Yeah. A mentor once told me the best piece of real estate that you can invest in is the 6 inches of real estate between your ears.
I love that. I love that. So good.
Invest into yourself, right? And it's like, but yeah, I thought that was a big one for sure.
Well, I mean, so appreciate your time, man. You're an incredible man, incredible journey. And like, you're so excited for like your future coaching and impacting probably like hundreds or thousands of lives. If people want to reach out to you or find you, where can they do so? Yeah, all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, those, all the big ones. But yeah, my website, www.gibbyscapital.com, GIBBYS capital.com. You can see more information on the deals we do, you know, what our services are, those kinds of things, how to get in contact with us, our bios, our team, all of that stuff. But overall, man, like you asked about my future, what we're aiming to do. I just want to do more deals with Daniel Kong. I would love that too, man. Let's make it happen.
Let's go. Appreciate your time, man.